Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Okay, cool. So today, we're taking a look at JanusFlow.
Ah,
It's this new AI model that's been making some waves.
quite a buzz.
Yeah, and you sent over some research paper and some benchmark results, and honestly, this thing is pretty ambitious.
Yeah.
It claims to do image understanding and degeneration all in the same model.
Which is pretty impressive. Most models tend to specialize, right?
Yeah, exactly. Most models we see are kind of like specialists, really good at one thing, but not so much at others.
Right.
So how is JanusFlow trying to break that mold? What makes it different?
So the key here is that it's what's called a unified multimodal model.
Unified multimodal. Okay, that sounds kind of jargony.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But basically, it just means that it can work with different types of data.
Okay.
Like text and images.
Okay,
All within one system.
gotcha.
And the unified part is really what's interesting here. Because it means that JanusFlow can both understand images, like, recognizing what's in them, and generate completely new ones based on, say, text prompts.
So it's not just about understanding or generating images, it's about doing both really well.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's a pretty tall order.
It is.
What's the secret sauce? How does it actually pull that off?
Well, a lot of the magic lies in how it's designed.
Okay.
Basically, it blends together these two really powerful AI techniques,
Okay.
autoregressive language models, or LLMs for short,
Okay.
and something called Rectified Flow.
All right. I'm familiar with LLMs, but Rectified Flow is a new one for me.
Right. So without getting too technical, think of LLMs like these super smart prediction engines for text.
Right. So like the things that power chatbots and things like that.
Exactly.
Right.
And Rectified Flow, on the other hand, that one has proven to be really good at creating realistic images from scratch.
Oh, wow. Okay. So is it kind of like JanusFlow uses LLMs to like understand the images in Rectified Flow to make the new ones?
Precisely. The researchers created this system where an LLM analyzes an image and then creates this kind of summary, right, about what it sees.
Ah, okay.
And then that summary is fed into the Rectified Flow model, which uses that info to generate a brand new image.
Wow. Okay. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
But why should our listener care about this?
Yeah.
Why is this unified approach such a big deal in the world of AI?
Well, think about it this way. Right now, if you want an AI to do different things with images, you often need different models, right?
Yeah.
You need one for recognition, one for generation.
Right. Different tools for different jobs.
Exactly. It's like a toolbox full of separate tools. But a unified model like JanusFlow, that's like a Swiss Army knife.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. One model that can handle a whole bunch of tasks.
So instead of needing this whole toolbox full of AI models, you've got this one incredibly versatile tool.
Exactly.
That sounds pretty efficient.
Yeah. And that efficiency could really revolutionize how we develop and use AI. Faster development times, lower computational costs.
Makes sense.
And potentially, we could even see entirely new applications that we haven't even thought up yet.
That's super exciting.
Yeah.
So speaking of exciting stuff, you mentioned some benchmark results that came with this research paper.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about those? How well does this thing actually work?
Well, the results are actually pretty impressive.
Okay. How so?
They tested JanusFlow against some leading specialized models, and in some cases, it actually outperformed them.
Wait a minute. So this model that's supposed to do it all is actually beating out models that are specifically designed for just one of those tasks.
Yeah, it did.
Wow, that's impressive.
And what's even more interesting is that it seemed to really excel at following instructions for image generation.
Oh, right, because getting an AI to generate an image that actually matches what you tell it to do is really tough.
Yeah, that's a tough one to crack, but JanusFlow seems to be handling it quite well.
Okay, color me intrigued. This all sounds really cool. But you also mentioned that it was outperforming other models, even though it was using a smaller LLM.
It was, yes.
So it's doing more, but with less. That seems counterintuitive.
It does, doesn't it? But that's actually another strength of JanusFlow. It's incredibly efficient. The LLM it uses is smaller than some of the specialized models it outperformed. And that's a big advantage, especially when you think about all the resources it takes to train these massive AI models.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it all comes down to some clever design choices, right?
It does.
He talked about something called decoupled encoders being one of JanusFlow's secrets. What does that mean?
Yes. The decoupled encoders.
Yeah.
This is where things get really interesting. See, most unified models try to use the same encoder for both understanding and generating images.
Okay.
But it's kind of like trying to use the same tool to write a book and paint a picture.
Yeah.
It can get messy.
Yeah, I can see how that could be a problem.
Yeah. So JanusFlow takes a different approach. It uses one encoder to, we'll say, understand the images, and then a completely separate one for the generation side of things.
Oh, so it's like having two specialized teams, one for analysis and one for creation, all working together.
Exactly.
And that seems to be working really well.
It does. The decoupled encoders let each part of the model focus on what it's best at.
So let me just quickly summarize what we've covered so far for our listener.
Sure.
We're talking about JanusFlow.
Right.
It's a new AI model that's trying to do something pretty unique, which is understand and generate images all in one system.
Yeah.
And it's actually getting some really amazing results, even beating out some models that are specifically designed for just one of those tasks. And it can do all of that thanks to some smart design choices like combining LLMs and rectified flow and using these decoupled encoders to keep everything running smoothly.
That's a great summary.
Well, you've definitely made me even more curious about JanusFlow. What else is there to explore?
Oh, there's plenty more. Remember those decoupled encoders? Well, there's actually even more to that story.
Yeah.
So remember we were just talking about how JanusFlow has those two separate encoders.
Yeah, one for understanding images and one for generating them.
Right. Well, it turns out there's actually a bit more to it than that. For the image understanding part, it actually uses TDUO separate encoders.
Hold on. Two encoders just for understanding images?
Yeah.
Why would it need two for the same task?
It might seem kind of redundant at first.
Yeah.
But there's a really clever reason behind it.
Okay, I'm listening.
So even within the realm of image understanding, there are different aspects to think about, right?
Right.
To truly understand an image, you need to be able to recognize the objects in it. You need to understand the relationships between those objects.
Okay.
And even just grasp the overall scene and context.
So even though it's all about understanding images, there are all these different skills involved.
Precisely.
Huh, that's interesting.
It is. And the researchers realized this. Instead of trying to cram all those different aspects of image understanding into one encoder, they decided to create two specialized ones.
Oh, okay. So what do those specialized encoders actually do?
So one of them is trained specifically to extract what we call semantic information from images.
Semantic information.
Yeah, so that's all about recognizing objects, labeling them, and understanding how they relate to each other.
So it's like having an AI detective who can look at a scene and tell you exactly what's going on.
Exactly. And then you have the second encoder.
Okay.
And this one is trained to focus more on the visual style and aesthetics of an image.
Ah, so it's like the AI art critic analyzing all the artistic choices.
Exactly.
So by splitting those two parts of image understanding up into separate encoders, they're able to create these like super specialized components.
Right. Each one optimized for its own specific task.
That's so smart. Okay, we've gone pretty deep into the technical details here, but I think it's time to zoom out a bit and talk about the bigger picture. What does the emergence of models like JanusFlow tell us about the future of AI? Where do you think things are headed?
Well, it's a fascinating question.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think it points to a pretty significant shift that's happening in AI research right now.
Oh, how so?
For a long time, the focus has been on creating those specialized AI systems.
Right, like super specialized.
Yeah, an AI that can play chess or translate languages, but just that one thing.
Right, right.
But JanusFlow and some other new models we're seeing, they're hinting at this move towards more generalized AI.
So instead of having all these different AIs that are good at one specific thing, we're heading towards AI systems that are more like us, capable of learning and doing lots of different things.
Exactly.
Wow. So what's driving that shift?
Well, I think there are a few factors at play. First, there's this huge explosion of data that we're seeing.
Right.
AI models are being trained on these massive data sets with all sorts of information. So they're able to learn all these complex relationships between different types of data.
So it's like they're getting a broader education.
Yeah, exactly. And then you've got the development of these new powerful AI techniques like deep learning and reinforcement learning.
Right.
These are much better suited for handling these complex, multifaceted problems. And of course, we can't forget about the advances in computing power. We now have the hardware to train these massive models.
So it's like all of these things coming together are creating this perfect storm for AI innovation.
It really is. And as a result, we're seeing these new AI systems that are not only more capable, but also more adaptable, more flexible, even more human-like in how they learn and solve problems.
It's pretty exciting to think about all the possibilities, but it also raises some pretty big questions, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, if we're creating machines that can do all the things we can do, even better than us in some cases, What does that mean for the future of, well, everything?
Yeah, it's a big question.
I mean, what happens to jobs, creativity, even just what it means to be human? It's a lot to think about.
It is. These are questions that have been pondered by philosophers and scientists for centuries. And now they're becoming even more urgent.
Yeah.
As AI keeps advancing so quickly, we need to be having some serious conversations about the ethics and the societal impacts of all of this. We need to be thinking about how we use AI for good.
Absolutely. It's a lot to grapple with, but it's exciting too.
It is.
And a little bit scary, maybe.
Maybe.
But I think it's important to remember that the future of AI isn't set in stone. It's something that we're all shaping together right now with the choices we make, the questions we ask, the conversations we have.
You're absolutely right.
And I, for one, am really curious to see where this all leads.
As am I. It's a fascinating time to be working in this field.
So speaking of exploring all these possibilities, one thing that really stood out to me about JanusFlow was how it seems to be bridging the gap between text and images.
Ah, yes.
That's something that AI has traditionally struggled with, but JanusFlow seems to be making some real progress.
You're right. That ability to move between the world of words and the world of images, that's crucial for any kind of intelligence.
Makes sense.
And it's something AI researchers have been working on for a long time.
Yeah.
To truly understand an image, you need to be able to go beyond just recognizing what's there.
Yeah.
You need to be able to connect those visual elements to their corresponding words and phrases.
Right. So it's not just about seeing, it's about making sense of what you see and then being able to communicate that understanding using language.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And JanusFlow seems to be doing a really remarkable job at that. They trained it on a massive data set of text-image pairs, essentially teaching it to associate words with visual concepts.
Yow.
And the results are pretty impressive. JanusFlow can generate these incredibly detailed and creative images from even really complex text descriptions.
I saw some of those examples in the paper they shared. They gave JanusFlow prompts like a corgi's head depicted as a nebula and a lone figure in dark robes walking up these worn stone steps towards this glowing light. And the pictures it came up with were just amazing.
Yeah, it really highlights the creative potential of these models.
Yeah.
And this ability to go from text to image, it has huge implications for all sorts of fields.
Yeah.
Art, design, even scientific visualization, product development. The list goes on and on.
Yeah, like imagine being able to describe your new product idea and then have an AI generate a 3D model of it.
Exactly. Or scientists using AI to visualize complex structures based on descriptions. It's really incredible.
Yeah, it's like we've got this universal translator between words and pictures now.
It is.
Yeah.
And this is just the beginning. As AI continues to advance, we can expect those capabilities to become even more sophisticated and more powerful.
It's mind-blowing to think about all the possibilities, but it's also a bit intimidating.
Well, yeah.
There are a lot of potential downsides to all of this, too.
Oh, for sure. As with any powerful technology, there are always risks. We have to be mindful of things like the impact on jobs, the potential for bias and misinformation. We need to make sure AI is developed and used ethically and responsibly.
That's a really important point.
It is. But I think we can approach these challenges head on, with a sense of pragmatism and a commitment to finding solutions that actually benefit all of humanity.
I like that.
We need to be proactive in shaping the future of AI and make sure that it aligns with our values.
Well said. I think that's a great place to pause for now. We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have, from the technical bits of JanusFlow to the bigger implications of this whole new era of AI.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. I hope our listeners have enjoyed it.
I'm sure they have, and hopefully they're leaving with even more questions than they started with. But before we go, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought-provoking question to ponder. All right, welcome back, everyone. We've been spending some time with JanusFlow,
We have.
learning about how it works and what it can do.
Lots of possibilities.
Yeah, for sure. But before we wrap things up for today, I want to leave you all with something to think about.
All right.
So we saw how JanusFlow can learn to understand and generate images.
Yeah.
It can even beat those models that are specifically designed for those tasks. So what if we take that idea even further? If JanusFlow can master those two skills, what other kinds of combinations could we see in future AI models?
Interesting question.
Could we have a model that can write music, paint pictures, A&D, write computer code all in one system?
It's a really fascinating thought. And honestly, it might not be as far off as we think. We're already seeing AI that can generate really human-like text,
Yeah.
compose music in different styles, even write working computer code.
Yeah.
So Taking that a step further and combining all of those abilities into one super AI,
Yeah.
it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility.
It's like the ultimate Renaissance person.
Right.
An AI that could analyze a symphony and then compose its own, write a poem about it, even build a website to share it all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the really exciting part is that this isn't just some sci-fi dream.
Right.
AI research is already moving in this direction.
That's incredible.
As we develop new techniques and gather even more data and computing power, those multi-talented AI systems could very well be a reality in the future.
It's definitely exciting, but also kind of intimidating to think about, you know?
It is. The potential benefits are huge, but we need to be really careful and thoughtful as we move into this new territory.
For sure. So I think it's a good time to bring things to a close. We've learned so much about JanusFlow.
We have. It's a really impressive model.
And I think it's a really clear sign of what's to come. This future where AI is becoming even more capable and versatile.
Totally agree. JanusFlow shows us that the world of AI is constantly evolving and pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible.
Yeah. So as we move forward, we need to stay curious, keep asking tough questions, and really engage with the conversations around how we want to shape the future of AI. So a huge thanks to our expert for joining us today.
It was my pleasure. Always happy to chat about this stuff.
And to all of our listeners, thanks for joining us on this journey.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
We hope you've enjoyed learning about JanusFlow and the exciting possibilities of AI. Until next time, keep exploring and keep diving deep.